Alright, like I said, we have a bit of a topic tonight that we're actually going for. We haven't had one of these in a while. It's a very loose topic, but it's a very, very fun one. Those of you who actually have been watching my Bat Pick series will recognize part of the game that we're going over. We're not going to actually go over 2 full games tonight. I just want to look at some really fun things that we don't really see anymore. Just going to go over some fun things that we don't actually see, and we're going to go over why we don't normally see these. And to that end, as I'm sure you know from every single lecture that I ever do, you've come to expect a certain something from me, such as orthodox openings, 4-4s, 3-4s, very little variation from that in pretty much any game I ever go for. So, that is not going to be what we're doing today. Has anyone been studying Mak Jin-seok lately? Does anyone know anything interesting about his play? Congratulations. I'm glad that you know this. You've been studying Go on your own. Many points awarded to you. For those of you who do not know, Mak Jin-seok has recently been playing very unusually. He's been opening, for example, as you see here. He recently even played against Yi Se-dol, and he won with a very, very unorthodox opening. Which you can guess, given that I'm not going over that game, you could probably infer what happens in this one. But we don't usually play this way when we play so off of star points like this. I mean, 3-4s, sure, for territory, but these two are much harder to get to work together. Figuring out what you're going to do with these 2 stones, you probably already know exactly what you're going to do. Well, not exactly. You might have a very, very good idea what your responses are going to be if your opponent actually approaches your cornerstones now. If you don't, then you probably don't really have very much business actually playing something so unorthodox. But, alright, his opponent, white, also a 9-dan, plays nice and simply, takes dual 4-4 points. Bit of a flexible opening. Taisha or I resign. Oh, that's not good. You're going to be resigning a lot of games there, man. But alright, we see black clearly trying to still develop something on the bottom. His cornerstone is in fact facing that way, so not surprising. And white is going to be a very, very calm person. And unlike what Jermel has said in the chat, pincer is the only answer here, white actually backs off. It's going to completely allow black to develop whatever he wants. Because one thing about this opening is that it's actually very, very hard to hold on to solid points. And that's what we're going to see here in a moment. Alright, so we have a choice as black now. We can back off a bit of a normal style and just say, I'm going to develop the bottom of the board. And we can continue along that sort of thing. But it doesn't really use the top right stone in any fashion. F17. Ah, that is super aggressive approach. At that point, you're probably going to expect a pincer. Usually when you double approach 4-4s like this, one's going to back away 3-4, and one of them's going to be a pincer. And if you find your opponent doing that, that's a pretty good rule of thumb to follow as well. Can't really go wrong with it. But no. What we're going to find here, we're going to go for broke on crazy moves. Black is going to... because of this move right here, I considered not really going over this game. Because there's just so much that you could say about this move and how all of these are trying to interact. Suffice it to say, let's stay extremely basic here. Is this a nice solid enclosure that's taking a lot of points? No, 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 no. This is obviously wide open. White's free to try to live back there if he so chooses. We already knew from the very beginning of the game, and from the subsequent follow-ups, Black's not really interested in playing a territorial game. He's very interested in size and influence and things of that sort. Now, one reason why White's not going to do that is because it's extremely slow. Black would get really, really strong, and then it would just be laughable how fast White just gets crushed. A lot of commentary. 1 second. I've seen 6-4 more common than this. Yeah, I'll agree with you that one as well. Oh, it's just the same move, but in the top right corner? Well, this one works a bit better because it actually brings together both corners as well as the extension. Alright, so what is White going to possibly do in response to all of this? Anyone have any ideas? Any suggestions at all? Okay, FDD has just said Tengen, at which point I have now decided he is dead to me. Let's see what else there. Okay, I'm seeing approaches on the top right corner. Okay, you are hung up on Taisha. I'm sorry, we're not going to see Taisha this game. Q17? Okay, yep, more approaches, more approaches. Messing with F3 is good. Really? That's an interesting thing for you to say, Jamal, because that is exactly what Black decides to do. I wonder if you just looked this game up. But yes, we could approach the upper right-hand corner. At which point, Black is again up to the decision on how to, continue making all of this work together. But White has a very simple answer. He's going to kick the stone. Black's going to respond. And White is going to try to provoke an attack here. His response to whatever Black's doing, start a fight, get strong in the center, call it a day. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now, you say that he has to extend up. I don't think that's entirely true. If this was a more conventional game, I think it would have also been okay to do a simple start point. But since F3 is now hurt, there's a ton of Aji on the bottom, the corner is still so open, that would be really strange. But very, very bad to get into this whole habit of looking at a move and saying, oh right, my opponent absolutely has to respond to me now, because you're gonna just miss moves that you simply don't bother trying to read because you don't realize that you don't necessarily have Sente. Or you might wind up getting in the habit of always responding to your opponent because you think they have Sente when they really didn't. But alright. Very loose pincer on the 2 stones. I think all Black really can do is do 2 things. He can either approach from this side, he can approach from this side. Technically he could play elsewhere, but that would be very, very bizarre. Okay, I suppose Black could jump out. I could see the jump out if it was a tighter pincer, but a pincer this loose? I think jumping out is a little bit of an overreaction and just going to allow us to get rid of some of these, wrong, go away, you, go, away, there we go. And it's just going to allow White to settle here fairly easily, at which case you still better have a plan to use with these 2 stones. I would find it hard to use them effectively after that. Maybe you wouldn't. And that's fine. Black decides to actually put pressure on the K4 stone, which is very, very common to see when we're pincered so lightly. H4 next. Why H4 next, Jermel? Why would we play that? Do tell. To apply pressure. Okay, good idea. Also takes away a very nice point for black rather. If black gets in H4 for an example, then he's also threatening to connect underneath, which is obviously not something that you want black to be able to threaten. So we apply pressure, we take away a nice shape, a beginning shape point. So yes, very good answer, Jermel. Now it is definitely time for black to escape. So only move possible, going to jump out. White's going to poke, keep the shape heavy, and then jump out. I almost asked again what you thought a good move here would be, but I think everybody knows that we have to jump out here. If you thought continuing on this line, and I'm going to assume that only some of the more double-digit cues, some of the weaker double-digit cues might have considered that, you can just immediately notice that you're kind of falling behind enemy lines here, and yeah, you don't want to risk being surrounded and allowing your opponent to turn around and cap you, things like that. Why H6? Oh, why not H6? Okay, now I'm confused. What? Oh, okay. So you mean for what? For white? Well, the difference between H6 and... Oh, I see what you're worried of. Are you afraid of your opponent? Oh, there goes the tree. I blame Jermel. It's all his fault. This isn't me. I didn't do this. He did. Okay, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Alright, let's continue murdering it. Why not? We've already messed up. Are you worried about your opponent getting life here? Oh, you're afraid of dying. Well, if you're afraid of dying, wouldn't you want to jump out faster? I don't want him to poke at me. I see. Well, a couple of things here. One, if he pokes at you, he's making you stronger. I mean, one thing that white does not really have any intention of doing right now is killing this group. When white decided to pincer so far away, a nice loose pincer, he knew that there wasn't going to be a lot of severity placed on this group. It's going to eventually live. If you put more pressure on it, maybe there's a chance, maybe black might give it up for something on the other side, who knows. But such a loose pincer, we're definitely not going to entertain the thoughts of being able to kill this, for one. So if your opponent really wants to do this and just live locally, that's cool, because he's going to be giving up the influence to you. Because as we can see here, after all of this, for example, we're still ahead of our opponent, right? So we're not really in danger of being surrounded. So if our opponent really wants to go through and do, you know, something like that, when he's still, you know, not completely alive, and he's obviously not threatening to surround you, then we're all good. If we play here, this gets a little bit risky because after the jump out, we feel that we still need another move here. But after this, we can clearly see that black can start thinking about changing directions and enclosing the corner. And being safe like that. Here, on the other hand, if black comes out, which we see immediately, because he doesn't want to be attacked some more, considering he has no shape to speak of just yet, then white's actually at a position where he can say, well, I'm not really behind. He's not going to be able to cap me in the next move and totally surround me. There's still Aji. I mean, that's a large knight between these 2 points. There's a peep there, so he can probably even cut through the large knight. So it's still difficult for black to attack. So white takes the liberty of taking some points for himself on the left-hand side and keeping pressure on the black stones. giving black a horrible decision that he has to make. Does he keep jumping randomly across the board in the effort to get safety? Could do that. Or do we counterattack? If we counterattack, we know our opponent's going to probably immediately live because he's going to be made nice and strong. But if we keep jumping across the board, then we're potentially giving up territory. So which one is the lesser of two evils? Black says it's time to fight. Jumping randomly is not the lesser of two evils in this case. In this case, it's time to counterattack. So, okay, let's see where this goes. Well, white goes and extends. Black says, I'm not going to just do something silly like extend and then Hane, and that would be bad. So I'm going to cut you. If we play this, then we might as well resign very, very shortly. Oh man, this SGF tree is just so disgusting. People on Twitch, you see what Jermel made me do? Do you see all that down there? That's so bad. I hope you can forgive me. Alright, where was I? Right. Goes ahead and cuts. Obviously going to save the stone. Now here's a decision that we have to make. Do we ladder? Or do we connect? Now that right there is a tough decision that is probably worthy of professional level examination. What do you think? Should we ladder? Is it time to ladder? Indeed, Insomnia, that's what I'm asking about. See, 4Q says I would do ladder. Ah, but immediately points out ladder goes to our 15 stone, so we cannot ladder. Yep, doesn't work. Goes right to the cornerstone. So, okay, we cannot actually ladder that stone. White chooses to connect. And this is going to get a little bit complicated, and since we have two games that I'm looking to go over today, I'm going to not spend a whole lot of time on this particular fight. White extends. We have to worry about the two stones being Atari, so no surprise that we see those defended. Sente goes to white. 3 stones are out, but the 4 on the bottom are not. So he makes an emergency contact move to get out. Those stones on the bottom are already pretty strong. Does not matter if we lean against them to make ourselves stronger, since the only stones that are important here are these, and maybe A, if we can take care of if we can take care of 1 and 2, then we can go back and worry about A. Alright, black says I'm strong enough, I'm going to save my cutting stones. White says I like my cutting stones as well, I'm going to save them too. Now that we're no longer in any danger of being captured with 1 move, black goes back and responds. White plays aggressively to get out. Black decides to to cut because he's interested in a very fascinating exchange. All he wants to do is take the influence for himself. So, okay. Black says, you can live on the bottom. White says, well, I guess I have to do that now. In exchange, black gets influence for the right-hand side. Indeed. Black makes himself stronger, looking to aim once again at the center, as we knew that he was going to, judging from his opening moves at 1 and 2. Talon says K9. What is K9? A turn. Okay. Could do that. Those are forcing. Those are forcing. Yep, B is attacking. Let's get rid of those marks so we can... I still want that. I've wanted that since KGS first started, really. One button I can press to clear all the marks from the board. But alright, we could turn. That would probably help kill off our cutting stones if we wanted to do that. And if we're not careful, we might suddenly give up this much territory to our opponent. I mean, we could do it if we were just worried about getting shape and living in the center. We could do that. We could do that. Could push a few and then jump out. But white is a bit more aggressive. He's going to apply pressure to the original group, because this thing is still not quite alive yet, whereas white is. Now, there is a downside to this. And as you pointed out, we can turn right at K9, so we can limit the effect of black's wall, and not have to worry about him getting suddenly a very, very large area for himself. By choosing to cap, as Talon just mentioned previously, black now has the option of developing the entire right side of the board, which is exactly what we were looking to avoid. And this is also exactly why I picked this game that I wanted to go over. Because remember what I said in the beginning of the game. I wanted to go over a few things that we don't see very often, and this opening is one thing that we don't see very often, because it leaves a lot of Aji behind. So, I am not a very good player. I would look at this as white, and I'd be wondering how many more moves should I be resigning. Is it good to resign now, or should I just wait a little while? I mean, which one is more socially acceptable? I would be thinking resign now as well, Vishal. Especially since I know I just lost Sente. Alright, so black plays what I'm wondering. Not entirely certain if that was for time or not. Or just to see how... Actually, it's probably just a probe to see how white's responding. Anywho. He continues building up. So now this has just gotten worse. Black is almost trying to take half the board for himself. I say almost because technically he is one line off. But yes, he's essentially trying to take half the board for himself. So clearly we have to reduce this. Just for giggles, does anyone have any idea how you'd even begin to try to combat this area? R10, a basic split. Okay. By cheating. Okay, okay. We have some solid suggestions here. Just plop a stone at Q10 and hope for the best. Alright, I love what white's trying here. He goes, I vote Q5, Q5, Q5. Oh, you are very, very close there, Insomnia. See, what Insomnia is doing that you guys are not, which is along the right idea. You guys are suggesting just plopping a stone in the middle of everything and crossing your fingers and hoping he lives. Insomnia is probably, I think he's an actual 8th Dan. You not do that from Drift, right? Before I, like, call attention to you. Yeah, he's an actual 8th Dan. So, I think he is. It looks like he is. Okay, he probably is. Anyway. He's played a lot of games. He knows that unless we have Aji on our side while we're trying to reduce, then the minute we play a stone that's in the middle of our opponent's area, he's not going to just let us live, he's going to try and crush and kill us. So what Insomnia and what White does here instead is he's trying to look for where we have those forcing moves. Like, can we threaten our opponent? Can we get them to respond to us so we can get more moves in the middle and maybe we'll be able to live that way. So believe it or not, he takes a 3-3 first. Black says, well, I can get you not to connect to that ever again, and I can probably do that in Sente. Because White has to respond. And now there's no connection at P2. Doesn't work anymore, it's just gone. And now Black does something very, very interesting. He actually pokes at what little White has so far. To be fair, fourth line is quite healthy, but he's also worried about his life right now. So okay, he's going to respond. And oh, did I seriously do that? I did do that. I did do that. How did I do that? Oh, no, we're fine. Except for we're supposed to go here and then there. Good. Okay, that was my fault. See, I would have gotten at least 50 moves in if it wasn't for Jamel. That's totally better. So alright, here he's looking for ways to maximize his eye space. And here we can see that there is a lot of Agi there at his disposal. You can also see that he's now connecting up to J2. If White's not careful, can't allow that to happen, so White has to kill it off. Which means Black gets to take this stone. Which is not bad. Okay, so White can now go back with Sente and try to live in the corner at R3. But that's kind of small. So he decides to go and do your original suggestion. Live in the middle of everything. Now, with an area this strong, you would think that it's going to be very, very tough to live. Unfortunately, the problem in building this way, all of this influence off all of these cornerstones that aren't very solid, or as solid as they could be, that there's a ton of Agi here, which we're going to see now. Because we see Black approach, congratulations, there's no longer a base. If White wants to live with this, it has to be in the center. Okay. So here we go, trying to make those moves in the center. Nice threat with the connection of R3 as well. White says, let's get rid of the Agi there. Black says, fine, I get to follow up then. Or White says, someone says. Goes underneath, White pulls back. Black extends, so White gets the clamp. Now once again, we're strong in the area, so Black is fighting. As we can see here. He connects, not so much to live in the corner, but to keep the S7 stones weak. Those S7 stones are going to have to fight for life. Which gives White forcing moves. Like this one, he gets to be stronger, and Black's not entirely safe yet. He has to worry about the Atari here, because this will be bad. Gets rid in Sente, and then corrects shape. Okay. White threatens some shape of his own, which black immediately pokes at. We know that there's no time to connect there, otherwise we're dead. So white tries to escape. Black cuts through. White gets some shape for himself. In Gote, unfortunately, black reapplies pressure, forcing white to escape. Finally, something that looks like an enclosure being played by black. Looking to get shape in the center again. Black keeps poking, trying to reduce all of white's shape. But white has a lot of Aji, and all of this Aji makes it really, really, really hard to kill someone. Takes away forcing move. Tries to come out. Black says that's not going to be an I. No, go away, sir. Tries to defend. So, are things looking good for our fearless leader at this point? Is white actually going to pull life out of all of this? Or is he dying horribly? Yannick asks, so now white resigns? I'd want to. This is definitely professional level life and death here. I don't expect anyone to have been able to predict all of these moves. N8. We're going to see something very, very interesting, Talon, in a minute. White pokes. Black takes away the Aji of your N8 that you were referring to. He still takes it for himself. Now we have a serious problem. There's liberty shortages. Black's all connected. We can cut through, it doesn't matter. So white pushes through, doesn't matter. Removing chances to get eyes. That's going nowhere for the moment. But I do want to call your attention to something real quick. We do have a couple of small knights here. And now we have one here as well. And small knights can be cut. It's amazing how well small knights can be cut. Black says, I don't need to defend. I'm going to keep poking at your life. Okay. White says, I can live now. Just let me live and everyone's going to be happy. But black says, no, I'm going to kill you. And then white pulls off this. What's usually a very, very distasteful move that no one ever plays. He pokes through, forcing white to black to back off. Threatens the clamp to kill off 2 stones. So black has to defend. And now, holy crap, he's just escaped. He's no longer connected. Black has no choice but to profit. White keeps rubbing salt in the wounds by threatening to live down in the bottom as well. Before going back and living. Making sure that this completely crystal clear that this is nicely alive. doesn't want to die, so he saves himself. But then that gets Atari. Black has to connect. And white gets to connect. So, building up all of this in the center off cornerstones with so much Aji. We don't usually see this kind of play very often, because if there's one thing pros are good at, and I've said it so many times in my lectures that people probably don't believe me, when a professional knows that one group is in trouble, and the only thing he has to worry about is making that group live, it's amazing how hard it is to actually kill that group. Which is why you find Dawn-level players usually never attempting to just kill one group. They're always trying to maybe kill a group or grow something else on the board. Or they're attacking two groups at once, because just killing off one group, very, very, very hard to do, because usually, unless your opponent is really, really bad at the game, they know that they're in trouble, and it's not going to die. So, Mach Jae-sik's style that he's been playing recently, the style that did take a game off Lee Sedol, just unbelievably as that may be, it's interesting not just because he beat Lee Sedol, but because he beat it with this style that's pretty much what's the word I'm looking for? That's so unorthodox, that's so risky, that's actually so hard to play and keep a game actually won, or keep any territory that you thought that you were making for yourself. All that good stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I had to do at least one game of his. Because his style recently is just so crazy. It's amazing that he's pulling it off. In this case, he doesn't. I can give the link out later if you want to see how this game actually ends. But right now, I want to switch over to something a little bit less insane, but still a very interesting Joseki that we don't usually play very often nowadays. Do you really want to know if white wins? Well, I guess I'm giving you the link. The link's going to be on... It's going to tell you on the page, right? Oh dear. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, where was the link? I'm so unorganized today. I'll give you the link. I swear to God I will. You. There we go. Okay, someone already did it. I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. Ha! You can go there. Alright, so... like I said, one more game I want to go over real quick. Has such a second we don't usually see very often, and we're going to see exactly why it's kind of fallen out of style. So let's close this board with this tree that is just a complete and utter embarrassment to all of my clicking. And let's open up a new game and take a look at that. That tree was so bad. I do not like looking at that tree. That tree was so disgusting. Well, luckily, now that it's closed, I don't actually have to admit it ever existed, so I'm happy about that. I'm happy about this. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. Alright, let's bring this back in. Alright. So let's go over this game now. So this game is the one that I meant was going to be easily recognizable because it was on my Bats picks. Let's bring in the rule. Yeah, let's put their names in here. No one's going to recognize any of these people besides a very, very small few. There we go. And I had to put in their ranks, because their ranks are awesome. There we go. We are looking at a game between two professional one-dans. That I picked in this week's, or last week's Bats Picks, because we see a lot of interesting things in here, some of which we don't see very often. Alright, so black opens up 4-4, and I'm not messing up the tree. This is a bit more standard, a bit something like I would usually go over. White aggressively approaches, but that's fine. That's fine. That's not unorthodox. That's normal. That's pretty normal. You have your choice of responding or taking an empty corner. Black says empty corner for me. We usually don't follow up on this corner. We simply reapproach a different one. So white reapproaches. All very standard. Also, how do I word this delicately? Let's just say if you found yourself giving handicap, this sort of thing is probably what you're going to be playing. This kind of approach a corner, see what they do, approach another one, tie them together, all that kind of deal. I'm not saying this is a handicap style, but it's not uncommon in handicap games, let's just put it that way. Alright. So here we go. Black just keeps separated, doesn't want herself enclosed in the corner. White defends. Quite normally. Because after P3, white says that she's not going to respond to any of that and approaches the corner instead. And here we have an interesting Joseki that we don't usually see very often. Now, someone said avalanche before I closed my last board, and you're kind of right about that. This variation that we see from white is not something that we see very often nowadays. And black's response is a good example as to why. When white plays this way, what we used to do is extend. Pretty simple, and that could go easily enough into Avalanche Joseki, or it could go into, depending on what we have here, if this is a 3-4 in the lower left-hand corner, we could back off into a Chinese, which we obviously can't do because there's 4-4. We could simply protect here for nice influence, that sort of deal. However, this move began putting a problem on that. Yes, 2 female Chinese pros. This move here began putting a little bit of a problem on that. Like, how do you still develop that if you're undercut? Do you drop down as well? No, you can't possibly because there's the cut. So we need to make the cut not work. Okay, cut doesn't work anymore. Great. But are you going to allow your opponent to Hane at the head of 3 stones? I think there's proverbs regarding like not letting your opponent do that. So, you know, that's bad. So we're going to extend again. Okay, now we could decide to let our opponent Hane, but if they double Hane, they're developing this area in exchange for what? That's not too good either, so I guess we're gonna respond again. It's like, okay, we responded. But now black is completely fine in the corner. So black gets to turn around and attach to the stone that is yet to be defended. Hello, Magrig. And this is such a severe move that this whole style of play has kind of fallen down a little bit. Because what do you do here? The idea was to get strength, maybe defend the cut or not, and maybe get a framework on the left. But now we're attached and we can't let that connect up, right? Now, white plays here first, but we'll get back to that corner in a second, because this is just going to end really fast. Black cuts, white cuts, and we're just using Aji. And, you know, never mind. We'll get to that in a minute. Where was I? Yeah. Atari, extend, and connects. Lots of Aji there. Lots of Aji there. But now white can extend down. Okay. There's now a problem here. Because what if black follows you? Now what? Do we extend down again? Do we connect? We can't possibly connect and let our opponent connect underneath. That's no cool. That's definitely no good. So we extend down again. Okay. This is becoming a problem. No, the bottom right is why we can play this way. We can't do this without ladders being nice and fine. So, okay. We block down, but now if black extends up, then we don't have to worry about any ladder because we're just being put into a disgusting shape. So all of that is now nice and cramped, and white now allows black to extend. And this variation that was very, very common for a while essentially is why no one's playing it anymore. It's really, really hard to use this effectively. We wanted a wall to do something. Okay, great, we have something that we can do. We can attack these 4 stones. The trouble with that is these 4 stones are really resilient. They've got a really good base here. They're nowhere near approaching being surrounded, and that wall of whites is just not very good for anything. But we have to try to attack it. Eventually, we have to. So white goes back and plays here first to get rid of Aji. Black takes a 2 for herself, allowing white to go back and try to attack these 4 stones. But black immediately points out the problem with this wall, in that it's just not threatening. This is not a scary wall. What's scary here is that white's wall kind of needs to live. Yes, when walls turn into weak groups. So this really emphasizes, in case anyone's been wondering why we're not really seeing the descent very much nowadays, why we keep seeing this one? Close. Why we're seeing a lot of back-offs, or sometimes even just, rather than the connection, sometimes we're even seeing jump-outs, is because it's really, really easy to just turn this into nothing good. Really, really hard. But okay, black turns, or white turns. And now a few players who don't know this corner and can't read very well might play an emergency move here, but we don't actually have to because black is completely fine. So white turned purely for defensive measures. Yes, you get, it's too much to have in your head because I'm stupid. One move, I'm thinking about white's perspective. The next move, we're thinking about black's perspective. And sooner or later, you just get them all confused. It's just everyone's perspective. So yeah, black has a free move now. White's just not getting killed, and that's pretty much all white's trying to do on top of the board. So white breaks that up. White goes pokey poke. and gets an enclosure. Finally, we have something tangible for white. We've got an enclosure with a little bit of extension there. Cool. Black's got an enclosure, or yeah, it's pretty well enclosed, the bottom right and upper right hand corners. That's good. White can certainly attack the bottom. That stone's all by itself for now, but this isn't exactly the strongest group in the world, so I have to be careful about that. But since that group's weak, we can leave L3 for a while, so white plays here. Another second that people don't really recognize very much these days is the Hani on the inside. A lot of players just go, no, retreat! I don't care if it kills off our group and everything we were trying to do. Quickly, just connect! Just connect! Are we connected yet? I think we're connecting. We're connecting here. Good, we're connected. Oh, thank God. We're fine. Everything's fine. Should we resign now, sir? Or ma'am? Forgot. It's black. And white. They're both female professionals. Close enough, though. So instead, we Hani on the inside. If we do not Atari on the inside and Atari on the outside instead, then we're letting our opponent just live back here, which is a lot better than running on the second line to our doom. And if we take the territory instead, then that's fine. White doesn't mind. Black doesn't mind the territory. No, the influence. Frack. I don't know who's doing what anymore. I'm just gonna go play checkers instead. Okay, the person who just made the move doesn't mind what they're getting, whatever that happens to be. There, nailed it. Okay, so what we have here... What are you saying? I'm saying that black doesn't mind getting the influence here. Only I butchered that about as badly as you possibly can butcher that. At the cost of a few stones, black gets herself some influence. I ever get the feeling you made the wrong move? There we go. Now that's forced. Yep. There we go. Yes, goodbye, tree. I'm blaming Jermel for that one too. Threatens a corner. Gets to play force moves on top. And long story short, at the cost of a couple of stones, all of these are now tied up nicely. So one thing that black is proving that they're very, very good at doing so far is making all of their stones work together. White played very aggressively at the beginning, trying to make a lot of complication, and black's just kind of ruining it at every step. I mean, here we had... Was it here? No, close. This one? Almost. There we go. Here we had a large wall being developed, potential on the left to be get something for white there, but we can attach and immediately ruin everything that was going to do. And if for a few moves later on we even see that thing has to ensure that it's not going to be surrounded and further harassed and just have to live in Gote, or turn and defend itself in Gote. However, one upside to all of this is that white gets an enclosure, a bit of an extension, and a bit of a weak stone to a harass. Okay. But black makes an exchange, and the influence is gone, the enclosure remains, but it's much more manageable, and now white stones at N3, they're kind of not looking all that healthy. I mean, they're stuck between two pretty strong groups. I mean, that's... In both instances, the top left and the bottom, the entire board flips. It's like, this is what I want to do. No, I'm going to destroy that. It's like, I'm going to do this now. Yeah, no, you're not. So, black is a pretty good player. Not saying white isn't. I don't want her to kill me. But black is definitely a very good player as well. Emergency measures, we have to not die. Okay. Getting shape for ourselves in an effort not to die. Some settling moves. White ignores to go to the corner. And even this is cool. Black is very, very conscious of the fact that despite the wall of whites not quite going exactly as planned, we're not going to make a two-space extension and worry about things like attachments to our third line stones later. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to be very, very respectful and approach it in a nice, strong manner while we're getting our base. No Aji for you. To which white says, I still need to get something here because I'm almost dying. If you get separated, something will die. That's true. So, alright. Goes for some Aji in the corner. In case you were wondering how you live in here if you're harassed, well, now you'll know. See? Easy life. And this is the kind of thing that was referring to. Barely alive, true, but alive. Pokes. Which is, I think, a really funny thing to do. It's like, you know what we're going to do against the group that's not completely alive in a corner? We're going to harass the stones that are trying to kill it. But life and death is very strong. Knows when we have to live. And even now, all of this is just one heavy group that's not really doing much. I mean, we can even imagine things like, well, maybe we get a chance to poke at A? Maybe we can lean at B? I mean, is it out of the realm of possibility that this group is still going to be in trouble later? No. It's still very possible. It's a very real option. I mean, that stupid wall that was supposed to be nice and strong and just pay off and not really doing that. Harass, harass, harass. More harassment, keeping white looking for eyes again. Black seems to be really good at doing that. One thing that all really strong fighters are able to do is they'll constantly keep a group unsettled. They'll always know how to poke the vital points. I mean, even when you thought you defended yourself, they'll always be good at saying, you know what, you're not. You are still in trouble here. And here we can see the same thing. Remember how I said that one group that has to live? Very, very, very hard to kill it? Well, here we have multiple groups. Well, not multiple groups. We have multiple problems going on here. One, this needs to live. Two, this large knight needs to not be invaded. So, okay. Black's getting stronger. And now He's just gonna, or she's just gonna borrow every ounce of strength that she can from this area. And white has to respond almost everywhere, or either something's gonna die or the points are gonna vanish. And here, black's decided the points are gonna vanish, because white responded on the left side rather than the right. So okay, points vanishing. Black got what she came for, so she's just going to keep producing. And keep producing. White's going to try to connect on up all nicely, which means we're in trouble here now. And now we have to kill stones. So once more, the middle is a little bit in trouble. Black connects on up for a nice strong group. I feel like I've misplayed something, because I have. And now what's really, really great about this, even now, oh, I would love to go over the rest of this game. How much left is it possible to do that? Oh, I don't think it's possible to do that. Let me check something real quick. Do I have time to do this? Because what actually happens at the end of this is so funny. Alright, whatever. I'm gonna quickly go through the rest of this game, because what happens to this is just amazing. Because right now you would think that this group is completely fine, right? I mean, it killed off 2 stones, but the problem with that is we can envision this, and suddenly we realize that there's no eyes here. There's still no eye here, potentially, so the second eye, sorry, is going to be out here in the middle somewhere, right? That's about what's going on right now. Nice strong move, white attacks. Black says, didn't you have an eye that you were relying on around here? And white says, eyes? I don't need any eyes, I'm going to connect. And white is just gonna, or black just keeps poking. It's like, no, really, you need eyes over here. White agrees, finally. Very strange shape, but it works. White is now literally having to make 2 eyes with this group. That is the current goal. And that goal is only being met in Co. Well, okay, the goal could be, well, no, the goal can only be really met in Co. Why am I going over a Co game? Okay, anyway, so that, and we take, at which point we're going into this. Right. There. Threaten to kill bad, gotta respond. Killing bad, gotta respond. That would be a kill as well, gotta respond. And white connects, because now the threat of the double Co is over. So white says, goody, I get to kill you. Black says, nope, we're still at Co. White says, but I still have threats. Threaten to kill. Definitely respond. Threaten to kill, definitely respond. It's amazing how often you can just threaten to kill things. Wait, did I screw that up? That. Yeah, black takes, white goes there, connects. Yeah, okay, cool. At which point black goes down. Right, threatening to kill in the corner. It's amazing how many different places that these people have to try and kill things. It's like, I can kill that. Like, okay, fine, I'll respond there as well then. It's like, great, I'm alive. Black says, well, what about this? White says, I yield. I'm alive, take it. Cool, profit. Lovely profit. White says I can now expand on things. This is cool. This is cool. Protects cutting points. White's like, great, it's my lucky day. I get to take all the things. Black's like, yep, your lucky day. You get to take all the things. It's like, yeah, I do. It's like, yep, take this too. White says, okay, I'll take that as well. Great. Thank you. I wanted that. It's like, well, I'm going to connect here now. It's like, okay, I'm going to just keep that to myself then. Like, okay, you can, sure. Right group. Might want to respond to the right group. This is just greedy. There is no reason for this to have happened. But it happens. It's like, you know what? I don't want to have to capture the 3 stones on the left-hand side of the board. Like, really? Not at all? Like, nope, not at all. I mean, you could just give up a few stones to... Nope, don't want to capture anything. Don't want to give up anything. So black says, well, what about your eyes? Like, I don't have to worry about them. I'm alive. I'm going to poke and reduce you. To which point white says, or black says, well, what about your eyes? And white says, nope. I'm going to keep playing endgame. To which black says, no, seriously, but what about your eyes? White, I don't need eyes. I'm fine. I'm reducing you. Reduction's good. It's like, okay, well, I'll just seal you off then, I guess. It's like, I'm completely surrounded now. I think I need 2 eyes. So black pokes. Or white pokes, sorry. And black's just like, it is entirely way too late for this. It is entirely possible that they were completely silent while playing. And we're just gonna draw these stones right on back. Poke here. Okay, there might be an eye there. But can completely kill off the 2 stones that you just played unless you save them. But that's not going to give us eyes. We need eyes from somewhere, because apparently we don't have enough. Go figure. So, okay, gonna try to make eyes here, and at this point you can just imagine black just shaking her head like, no. It's like, I'm gonna connect then? It's like, that doesn't give you eyes. There's no way to make eyes. The moves that I was playing in the center weren't just for show. So white resigns. That is gotta be one of the most... I don't know. I have to imagine that's a misread. Thought there was a way to still make the eyes, but there just wasn't. Oh, what a wonderful way to end the game. Okay, yeah, eyes are really, really helpful. But this is also a reason why we don't see that upper left Chiseki very often. I'm not really sure how this bottom right ties into that, but it just works. It just goes. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture.